Relics emerge, not of dinosaurs, but of us. Human-like imprints, etched into rock supposedly hundreds of millions of years before our species was even imagined. The first impossible footprint. The sky was heavy with summer heat as the river cut a lazy path through Glen Rose, Texas. It was 1938, and the Paluxy River had just retreated after weeks of flooding, peeling away mud and sand to expose what lay beneath. Locals came to see the dinosaur tracks, great three-toed impressions pressed deep into the limestone riverbed. But as the water drained, something else emerged, something that shouldn't have been there. Beside the clawed prints of a creature that walked the earth 110 million years ago was another track. This one was smaller, rounded, 5 toes, a heel, the unmistakable shape of a human foot. It was as if, in some impossible moment in time, man and dinosaur had walked together. Paleontologists dismissed the idea instantly. Misinterpreted erosion, they said, a hoax, wishful thinking. Yet when the prints were examined, the human-like impressions showed arches, toe lengths, and proportion that fit the human anatomy far too closely for a random trick of nature. And here's the thing, it wasn't just one print. Dozens of them were found, some crossing directly over dinosaur tracks, as if whoever or whatever made them had followed in the giant's footsteps. If the dating of the rock layers was correct, these footprints predated our official appearance on Earth by more than 100 million years. Science could not, or would not, explain it. But the river had given us a riddle carved in stone. And if this was just the first clue, what else was hiding in the deep archives of Earth's impossible history? What science says, and what the rocks suggest. According to mainstream science, the Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. Life began in the oceans, crawled onto land, and over hundreds of millions of years, dinosaurs emerged. They ruled the planet until a cataclysmic event, an asteroid strike, wiped them out 66 million years ago. Humans? We're newcomers. Homo sapiens supposedly appeared only about 300,000 years ago, with our earliest ancestors stretching back maybe 6 million years. In other words, dinosaurs and humans are separated by a gulf of time so vast it's almost incomprehensible. And yet, the rocks tell a different story. In coal mines, quarries, and riverbeds across the world, objects and imprints have been found that seem to mock the neat timelines in our textbooks. Fossilized human-like footprints in strata hundreds of millions of years old. Tools embedded in stone laid down before the first reptiles. Even metallic objects sealed in rock from ages when, by all accounts, no intelligent life should have existed. Every time such an anomaly is discovered, 2 things happen. It's quietly dismissed by official channels, and it's burned into the memory of those who saw it with their own eyes. The question isn't just what these finds are, it's how they got there. If humans, or something like us, existed before dinosaurs, then history is not linear. It's fractured. It's hiding something from us. And one discovery, deep in a coal mine, would make that possibility harder than ever to ignore. The coal mine shoeprint. In the summer of 1891, deep beneath the Appalachian Mountains, miners worked by the dim orange glow of lanterns. The air was thick with dust, the rhythm of pickaxes echoing through the black tunnels. They were cutting through layers of ancient coal, layers so old they dated back to the Permian period, over 200 million years ago. One miner's swing struck something hard. He knelt, brushing away chunks of coal, and froze. Embedded in the rock was a perfect impression of a shoe sole, not a vague shape, not something that could be mistaken for a random rock pattern. This had the defined heel, the symmetrical curve, the fine stitching marks that only deliberate manufacture could create. But the strangest detail lay in the center of the sole, the fossilized imprint of a trilobite, an ancient marine creature that vanished from Earth nearly 400 million years ago. Think about that for a moment. For a trilobite to be fossilized inside the footprint of a shoe, the shoe had to step on it while it was still alive, and then both had to be buried and preserved together in sediment that would harden into rock. And if the dating of the coal seam was correct, the person wearing that shoe, or whatever passed for a person, had walked the earth hundreds of millions of years before dinosaurs even existed. News of the find spread in small circles, printed in local papers, debated in geology clubs. But without photographs, and in an age before mass media, it was easy for skeptics to wave it away. An anomaly, they called it, a trick of the rock. Yet, to those who had seen it, the sole print was as real as the boots on their feet. And once you accept one impossible object, you begin to wonder, how many more are out there? The answer would come not in a single discovery, but in a scattered trail of them, stretching across continents, each one whispering that the official timeline of life on Earth is not just wrong, it's incomplete. Global anomalies. Once you start following the trail of impossible evidence, you find it scattered like breadcrumbs across the map, and each one seems to tell the same story. A story we're not supposed to know. In the dry, wind-polished lands of Nevada, geologists studying Triassic shale, rock dated to over 200 million years ago, made a startling find. A series of human-like footprints. They weren't vague depressions. They showed defined toes, clear arches, even the subtle curves of a human instep. The spacing suggested a bipedal stride, not a crawling reptile or a four-legged animal. Yet according to the timeline, no human could possibly have left them. Travel east, and you find another enigma in the rolling hills of South Africa. Miners here have unearthed metallic spheres, perfectly round, with delicate grooves etched around their circumference, embedded in rock more than 2.8 billion years old. Nature doesn't carve such perfection lightly, and no known geological process produces symmetrical patterns like these. To this day, scientists can't agree if they're natural formations, or something manufactured by hands that shouldn't have existed. Then there's the mystery of the London hammer. In 1936, a couple exploring near Red Creek, Texas, found a wooden hammer handle protruding from a slab of rock. When it was examined, the stone encasing the hammer was dated to over 100 million years old. If that date is correct, then someone, or something, was crafting metal tools long before the age of man had supposedly begun. These are not isolated cases. They are fragments of a puzzle scattered across eras, continents, and forgotten archives. Fossilized fingerprints in coal seams, stone carvings in strata older than the first reptiles. Parts. Out-of-place artifacts, as they are called in the fringes of archaeology. Mainstream science often brushes them aside, claiming misidentification, contamination, or outright fraud. And yes, some have been hoaxes. But even if 99 are fake, what if just one is real? One genuine artifact is enough to rewrite the entire story of life on Earth, which leads to the most disturbing question of all. If traces of humanity, or something human-like, really do predate dinosaurs, what happened to them? The next clue doesn't just suggest an earlier humanity. It points toward entire civilizations that may have risen and fallen before ours, leaving only whispers buried in stone. The vanished civilizations theory. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast canyon at sunrise. The light spills across layer after layer of stone, each band a page in Earth's memory, a record of events that took place long before any human eyes ever opened. Or so we're told. But what if some of those pages are missing? Or worse, rewritten? Some researchers, often labeled fringe theorists, believe the anomalies we've seen are not random accidents. They are the scattered remains of civilizations so old they were erased not just by time, but by the Earth itself. Entire epochs in which intelligent life flourished, built cities, shaped tools, and perhaps even mastered technologies we can barely imagine, only to be swept away by cataclysmic events, leaving nothing but fossils and a few stubborn artifacts behind. The Earth is not a stable archive. It is a restless, shifting stage. Over millions of years, continents drift, oceans rise and fall, mountains crumble, and glaciers grind landscapes into dust. Anything left on the surface for long enough will vanish, swallowed by tectonic movement, buried under volcanic ash, dissolved by erosion. If a civilization existed 200 million years ago, we might expect only the faintest whispers of it to remain. A hammer encased in stone, a footprint pressed into ancient mud, a sphere buried deep in Precambrian rock. And here's the unsettling thought. These are exactly the kinds of things we've found. If this theory is correct, human history is not a straight, upward climb from primitive to advanced. It is a cycle. Civilizations rise, reach their peak, and fall, sometimes to the point where their existence is all but erased. Then, millions of years later, another begins, unaware they are not the first to dream, build, and vanish. Ancient myths from cultures around the world speak of great floods, burning skies, and ages of darkness. Could these stories be fragmented memories, passed down not for thousands, but for millions of years? If so, how many times have we been here before? The next piece of the puzzle may hold the answer. A discovery in South America that some believe is the clearest sign of an ancient intelligence predating the age of man. The South American enigma high in the rugged Andes of Peru, far from the tourist paths that wind toward Machu Picchu, lies a plateau of windswept stone. Here, the air is thin, the nights are cold, and the land seems untouched by time. Yet beneath the soil and rock, something has been waiting. In the early 20th century, miners searching for mineral deposits stumbled upon an exposed section of ancient bedrock. Embedded within it were dozens of what looked like footprints, some animal, some disturbingly human-like. But the strata they were found in was dated to the Jurassic period, over 150 million years ago. The prints showed a startling level of detail: the curve of the arch, the definition of toes, even the subtle indent where the ball of the foot pressed into the ground. Local legends told of the walkers before time, beings who roamed the earth in an age when giant reptiles dominated the land. But the mystery didn't end with footprints. Nearby, strange stone artifacts were uncovered, smooth, elongated ovals with grooves spiraling around them. They were unlike any known Inca or pre-Inca object, and no natural process seemed to explain their shape. When news of the find reached scientific institutions, the reaction was predictable. The footprints were called misinterpretations, the artifacts labeled natural concretions. Yet, curiously, few detailed studies were ever conducted, and the site was eventually left to the wind and dust. For those who saw the prints with their own eyes, there was no mistaking their origin. They believed they had found evidence of an intelligence that walked the earth long before recorded history, and perhaps before dinosaurs themselves. And there's something else about this site, something rarely discussed. The patterns of the prints suggested not random wandering, but purposeful movement, as if the walkers were traveling together, following a path, towards somewhere. But where? And more importantly, what could have existed in that place, in that time, worth traveling across a prehistoric landscape ruled by giants? Time out of joint time. We think of it as a river, steady, unbroken, flowing in one direction from past to future. History follows that current, carrying events in a neat, linear sequence. Dinosaurs first, humans later, always in order. But what if the river isn't straight? What if, in places, it folds back on itself, or splits, or flows in both directions at once? Physicists have long speculated about the nature of time. At the smallest scales, deep within the quantum world, cause and effect can blur. Particles can exist in multiple states at the same moment, or appear to influence events in the past. And if the fabric of time can bend at the microscopic level, could it also ripple at the scale of entire worlds? Some researchers have proposed that the anomalies, the human-like footprints in ancient rock, the tools in prehistoric strata, may be the result of time slips. Moments where two different eras overlap, briefly sharing the same physical space. A traveler walking along a riverbank in our era might, without warning, step into a patch of ground that also existed 110 million years ago. Their footprint would be pressed into ancient mud, preserved for eternity. And then they would simply walk back into their own time, unaware of the impossibility they had just created. Others take the idea further. What if entire civilizations have arisen in timelines parallel to our own, timelines that occasionally intersect with ours, leaving behind physical traces before vanishing again into their own histories? It sounds like science fiction, and yet, cultures across the world tell stories of places where time behaves strangely, from the fairy paths of Celtic folklore to the vanishing villages of South American legend. Always there is the same thread. People step into another time, and when they return, everything has changed. If time is not fixed, then perhaps humans didn't come before dinosaurs, nor after them, but alongside them in a way our minds aren't built to understand. And there is one place, deep in the jungles of Central America, where a ruin was found that seems to bridge two impossible eras, as if time itself had left its mark in stone. The ruin that shouldn't exist. The jungle is a master of concealment. In the damp, green silence of Central America, entire cities can vanish beneath vines and soil in less than a century. But some things, no matter how well hidden, have a way of calling attention to themselves. In 1944, a small team of surveyors was cutting a path through dense rainforest in Honduras when they stumbled upon something massive. Rising from the earth, half swallowed by roots, was a stone wall, not of rough, primitive blocks, but of massive, perfectly cut slabs fitted so tightly together that a knife blade couldn't pass between them. The structure resembled pre-Columbian architecture, yet it was unlike anything attributed to the Mayans, Aztecs, or Olmecs. Its proportions were alien to known Central American styles, and etched into some of the stones were carvings, figures that looked human, and others that did not. One panel in particular caught their attention. It depicted a tall, upright figure walking alongside a creature unmistakably resembling a sauropod, a long-necked dinosaur. The two were shown together, not as mythic combatants or symbolic icons, but as companions on a shared path. This was not an isolated image. Several other panels seemed to blend scenes from completely different epochs. Marine reptiles swimming beside sailing vessels, what looked like human hunters alongside creatures that should have been extinct tens of millions of years earlier. Archaeologists who later examined photographs of the site dismissed it as either a hoax or misinterpretation, suggesting the dinosaur-like figures were stylized crocodiles or mythic beasts. But those who had been there insisted the carvings were too precise to be coincidence. The ruin was never officially excavated. Over the years, its location became vague, known only through conflicting accounts. Some say it lies beneath hundreds of acres of untouched rainforest. Others claim it was deliberately concealed to protect it, or to keep it from rewriting history. If genuine, the site doesn't just suggest humans and dinosaurs coexisted. It implies that whoever built it knew about them, had seen them, and had the means to record their likeness in stone. But here's the question that gnaws at anyone who hears this story. If this ruin is real, and if it is as old as it appears, who built it, and what else did they leave behind that we have yet to find? The missing chapters of Earth's history. History, as we know it, is not the whole story. It's a carefully bound volume written by those who came before us, but missing entire chapters. Pages torn out. Margins smudged. When we speak of the past, we speak from what survives. The shards of pottery, the bones, the crumbling walls. But survival is a ruthless filter. Anything too old, too fragile, or too inconvenient is swallowed by the earth. And over millions of years, almost everything is. Think about it. The earliest cities we know of, like Uruk and Eridu, are only about 6,000 years old. Yet in geological terms, 6,000 years is nothing. A thin coat of paint on the canvas of time. What if there were civilizations not thousands, but millions of years before ours? Civilizations whose monuments have been ground into sand, whose metals have corroded to dust, whose stories are trapped beneath miles of rock. It's not a new thought. Charles Fort, the early 20th century chronicler of anomalies, once suggested that the Earth might be a museum of forgotten races, their relics locked away in stone. We may stumble upon them by accident, a footprint in ancient shale, a tool in coal, and dismiss them because they don't fit our model of history. And yet, the anomalies persist. They do not vanish with skepticism. If anything, they multiply the more we look. There's a growing possibility that our understanding of history is not just incomplete, but fundamentally flawed. That instead of one continuous human story, there have been many, each rising, falling, and disappearing in cycles so vast we can't yet measure them. If this is true, the human story is not linear, but circular. Each loop leaves a few traces behind, traces that we, the newest in the cycle, mistake for impossibilities, which leaves us with one final, unnerving thought. If others came before us, millions of years before dinosaurs walked the earth, did they leave us anything more than footprints? Did they leave a message? And if so, where is it hidden? The final clues and the question we can't escape. If an ancient intelligence truly existed before the age of dinosaurs, it's possible they left behind more than tools, carvings, and footprints. Perhaps the real legacy isn't something you can hold in your hand, but something woven into the very fabric of the world around us. Some researchers point to inexplicable alignments in Earth's geography, ancient sites across continents lining up along precise great circle paths, as if placed with knowledge of the planet's curvature long before modern surveying existed. Others speak of recurring symbols found in cave art, stone carvings, and even modern-day petroglyphs, a kind of prehistoric code, repeating across vast distances and impossible spans of time. Could these be the remnants of a language that transcended civilizations, a message meant to survive even when the builders themselves did not? If such a message exists, it may not be meant for the people of their own time, but for us. A warning, a memory, or perhaps an invitation to remember what we've forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, the clues are still being uncovered. The metallic spheres from South Africa, the ancient hammer sealed in stone, the ruins depicting humans beside dinosaurs. Each one feels like a piece of a puzzle scattered across millions of years, daring us to put it together. But the question remains, why hide it? Why leave only fragments? Did these ancient beings know their world was about to be destroyed? By natural disaster? By cosmic impact? Or by something of their own making? If humans truly walked the earth before dinosaurs, then our species is not a newcomer at all. We are survivors of a story that has played out many times before. And if that's true, what chapter are we living in now? And how much time do we have before the cycle begins again? And so, the question lingers, heavier now than when we began. If traces of humanity existed long before dinosaurs ruled the earth, who were they? Were they us, or something far older, far stranger, and now forgotten by the march of time? Every layer of rock we peel back seems to whisper a different story. A version of history in which we are not the latest chapter, but perhaps a reprint of something ancient. A cycle, a pattern, a memory that the earth itself has tried to bury. But here's the real paradox. If they lived before the dinosaurs, why did they vanish? And could the same fate be quietly making its way back toward us? One thing is certain, the answers are not gone. They're buried, waiting, and the deeper we dig, the more the past begins to look uncomfortably familiar. Stay curious, stay watching, because the story of humanity might not be about where we're going, but about how many times we've already been here. And as the echoes of this mystery fade into the night, remember, every answer is only a doorway to another question. Stay with us. The next chapter awaits.